Right now, there is supposedly a ceasefire in the Middle East, yet 2 U.S. carrier strike groups and a massive deployment of support vessels are currently gathered in the region's waters. U.S. Central Command has even requested that hypersonic missiles be sent to the theater. Deploying such high-speed, precision hardware signals a shift toward offensive readiness. This military posture is heading toward a confrontation with a strict legal deadline. Under the War Powers Resolution, 60 days have passed since the president notified Congress that hostilities with Iran had begun. By law, he must now either withdraw these forces or seek formal authorization to fight on. The White House is arguing that the current ceasefire effectively pauses or stops the 60-day clock entirely. But constitutional lawyers are pushing back, arguing the statute does not support that interpretation. That creates a rapidly closing window. The Pentagon has already spent a conservative $25 billion on this conflict, which is making lawmakers nervous, while Israeli leadership is actively signaling they prefer a return to war over a negotiated deal. The president is caught between a looming legal deadline and a volatile tactical situation. He can no longer wait out the clock. He has to make an active choice on how to proceed. The military has laid out a clear matrix of options for the commander-in-chief. The first, highly favored by hawks in Washington, is a short, sharp campaign. This plan calls for 2 weeks of highly concentrated, intense airstrikes targeting Iran's energy and government infrastructure. The goal is to apply overwhelming physical pressure to force Iranian leadership to make concessions at the negotiating table. The logistics are already moving. In the past few days alone, over 6,500 tons of munitions have arrived in Israel, and dozens of U.S. fuel tankers are parked on the tarmac at Tel Aviv and Eilat airports. A second, far more aggressive option inserts U.S. special forces deep into Iranian territory to target highly fortified inland enriched uranium sites. It also requires ground forces to secure the Strait of Hormuz, protecting commercial shipping from retaliatory attacks. While these direct action strategies satisfy voices pushing for decisive force, military strategists warn they carry massive logistical hurdles and an extreme risk of triggering uncontrollable regional fallout and U.S. casualties. But the president remains highly reluctant to authorize these direct strikes. The hesitation is rooted in the sheer volume of weapons Iran still controls. Intelligence shows the Iranian military retains thousands of missiles and drones. If the U.S. resumes bombing, Iran's primary retaliatory targets will be the sprawling energy infrastructure spread across the Middle East. A coordinated strike on those facilities would immediately fracture the region's energy output and cause a severe, sudden spike in global oil prices. To avoid that economic shock, the president is leaning toward a third option, extending and tightening a naval blockade. The logic is to slowly squeeze the regime financially without firing a single direct shot. However, aides have warned him of a major strategic flaw in this approach. A blockade requires weeks or months to apply enough pressure to force the regime's hand. By selecting the economically cautious route, the United States hands the initiative back to its adversary. It gives the Iranian regime the precise asset it needs most right now: time to prepare. The reality is that this 3-week pause in fighting has not been a true de-escalation. Low-level strikes are still occurring in southern Lebanon, and both sides are actively using this window to reload. Iran's hardline leadership has spent this entire ceasefire digging out damaged missile silos, rearming and shifting military assets to prepare for the exact resumption of U.S. and Israeli attacks they anticipate. If those attacks do resume, the scale of the conflict will escalate immediately. Should Central Command deploy the hypersonic missiles they requested, it will be the first time that technology has ever been fired in active combat. Despite the intense pressure from Israeli officials and the conflicting advice from within his own cabinet, the final call cannot be delegated. It rests entirely with one person. The commander-in-chief must now choose between two harsh realities. He can either order high-tech direct strikes that risk sparking a massive regional conflict, or he can attempt a slow-rolling containment strategy that leaves a hostile, well-armed Iran intact while trying to shield the global economy.